Hawkins was born in Adams, Massachusetts in November of 1886.
Hadley, you said?
Adams.
Adams.
And he began to caddy at the Forest Park Club in Athens. He learned the game there, began learning the game there. His family then moved to Burlington, Vermont, and he caddied there at the Wabanaki Club. And he continued to work there, and he eventually became caddy master, right? Top caddy. So he was knowledgeable about the game by that point. After he graduated high school in 1907, he turned to work in golf. And he worked in different clubhouses all over the place in New England. And then he became a steward of some of the finest clubs in Vermont. In the 1920s, he was the general manager of the Mapledale Country Club in Wayland, Mass. And he was the first African-American person to do that in New England. And so he had risen to this very high position because he knew the game so well. He knew about, course management. He knew just a lot. But his dream was to have a club specifically for blacks, because there was still a lot of discrimination and they weren't allowed to play at many clubs, or there was one day that the club would be open or something. And so in 1926, he purchased the Dr. John Randall estate for $10,000. And he became the owner of 160 acres with a mansion. And he began to complete his dream and to open what he called a golf and country club exclusively for colored people. And not only did the 9-hole golf course, which was a big thing because there weren't all that many 9-hole or 12 and 18, he opened that. But he also had facilities for swimming, playing tennis, horseback riding, games for trap and skeet shooting, for games like croquet, and for the winter he had a toboggan run.
Oh, wow.
Right? This is to be an all year round thing. And then there was a banquet hall and ballroom inside. There were club memberships where people could rent rooms and stay overnight. And I was reading that the memberships were either $25 or $15.
Okay.
So they weren't that expensive. But it opened it up and it became this really amazing thing that was known nationally. But he also was interested in organizing the increasing number of black golfers in the country. And so in 1925, he helped organize the UGA, the United Golf Association. And that was the first professional golf association for black players. And that association in 1926, 1927, and 1928 held their first 3 tournaments here at Mapledale, attracting golfers from all over. A lot came from DC, New York, Chicago, other states in the Midwest. They all came to Mapledale and got a lot of press, right? Not only in black newspapers, but in Boston Globe, in other papers in Chicago. People had their eyes trained on it. John Shippen came and played. Right? So there were a lot of people who came to play here at Mapledale, and it was considered very, very significant. By the 1930s, the UGA had its first women's tournament. Because women were playing, they just didn't have tournaments. Right? And so you began to have this real increase in golf by the 1930s, spreading across the country. And Mapledale is part of that. So as we celebrate its history, we have to remember that it's not only just a place, but it is a place that has great significance, not only in the history of Stow, but in the history of Massachusetts, in the history of golf, and in the history of the United States. Thank you.